Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to perform another AWS lab that is based on Amazon Redshift. Again, this lab is provided by Quick Labs. You can check the description for this lab link. So this lab provides a basic understanding of Amazon Redshift. It demonstrates the basic steps that is required for creating a Redshift cluster, loading data into a Redshift cluster, performing queries against the data in the cluster. And in this lab, we are going to cover the topic of launching a Redshift cluster, connect an SQL client to the Amazon Redshift cluster, load data from an S3 bucket into an Amazon Redshift cluster, and learn how to run queries against the data stored in Amazon Redshift. So to understand about the Amazon Redshift, it is a fast, fully managed data warehouse that makes it simple and cost effective to analyze all your data using standard SQL and your existing business intelligence tools. You also have to know about the Amazon S3. So prerequisite familiarity with relational databases and SQL concepts would be beneficial for performing this lab. So to start the lab, click on this green Start Lab button. It is going to take some time, so I am going to fast forward the screen. So now click on this Open Console button. Let's split this screen. So now here we have the AWS Management Console login provided by Quick Labs platform. Let's go directly to the task 1. The first task is to launch an Amazon Redshift cluster. In this task, you will launch an Amazon Redshift cluster. A cluster is a fully managed data warehouse that consists of a set of compute nodes. Each cluster runs an Amazon Redshift engine and contains one or more databases. When you launch a cluster, one of the options you specify is the node type. The node type determines the CPU, RAM storage capacity, and storage drive type for each node. Node types are available in different sizes. Node size and the number of nodes determine the total storage for a cluster. Now in the services section, search for Redshift. Click on this Amazon Redshift option. Now on the left side, click on this cluster. Click on Create Cluster. Now we have to give this information cluster identifier as lab. Node type is the dc2.large. So you can select this dc2.large. You can see the storage option. It is 160 GB per node, and the cost for using it is $0.25 per node per hour, and it provides 2 CPUs. You don't have to worry about this bill. This lab is completely hosted and provided by QuickSlab for free, so you can move forward. Click on this dc2.large. Now the number of nodes is 2. On this database configuration section, you can give the admin username as master, admin user password Redshift123. The password is similar as this password given on the lab. Go ahead and expand this cluster permission. For available IAM role, select the Redshift role. Now click on this Associate IAM role. This role is going to grant permission for Amazon Redshift to read data from Amazon S3. In additional configuration, deselect this option, use default. Expand network and security. And now configure your VPC as lab VPC. The VPC security group. Deselect this default and select Redshift security group. Now move forward and expand database configurations. On the database name, give the database name as labdb. Now go down to the bottom and click on this create cluster. The cluster will take a few minutes to launch. Please continue with the labs step. There is no need to wait. Now click the name of your cluster, that is lab. Click on it. The cluster configuration will be displayed. The status is getting changed from modifying. Now it's going to take some time for launching it. So let's wait until this status changes from modifying to available. Okay, so the status has been changed from modifying to available. Now let's move on to the task 2, that is to use the Redshift query editor to communicate with your Redshift cluster. Now Amazon Redshift can be used via industry standard SQL. To use Redshift, you require an SQL client that provides a user interface to type SQL. Any SQL client that supports JDBC or ODBC can be used with Redshift. For this lab, you will use the Amazon Redshift query editor. In the left navigation pane, click the editor and then select to database. Click the editor and select connect to database. And on the cluster, give the name as lab. Database name should be labdb and the database user should be master. Click on connect. Now you can see the status is connected. So the task 3 is to create a table. In this task, you will execute SQL commands to create a table in Redshift. Delete the existing query in the query 1 window. So select all these queries and erase them. Now copy this SQL command and paste it into the query 1 window and then click run. Simply copy this query and paste it right here. In this query, you can see that it is creating a table with these columns, and these are the data types that are used on these columns. Click on now run. So the query has been completed. This command will create a table called users. It contains name, address and details about the type of music that the user likes. If you study this query, you can see it has like sports. That means it presents the count of persons who likes this sports music. Similarly, theater music and all. Moving on to the task 4, it is to load sample data from Amazon S3. Amazon Redshift can import data from Amazon S3. Various file formats are supported: fixed length fields, comma separated values and custom delimiters. The data for this lab is pipe separated. Delete this existing query and paste this SQL command into the query 1 window. Copy this and paste it right here. In this query, it shows that the data is there in S3 bucket and the data is being copied to the users table. But before running this command, you will need to insert the role that Redshift will use to access Amazon S3. To the left of this instruction, you are currently reading copy the value for the role. You can see the value for role right here. Click on it. Paste the role into the query window and replacing the text with your role. So erase it and paste the role right here. This gives you the credentials to copy the data from S3 bucket to the table user. Now click run. This command will take approximately 10 seconds to load 49,990 rows of data. The query has been completed. Now let's go to the task 5. It is to query data. Now that you have data in your Redshift database, you can query the data using SQL select statements and queries. If you are familiar with SQL, feel free to try additional commands to query the data. Run this query to count the number of rows in the users table. So this query simply counts the number of rows from a users table. Click on run. You can see that the result is showing 49,990. That means this table has 49,990 rows of data. Now again, let's run this query again. Click on run. So as you can see, if you understand the SQL query, it is going to select user ID, first name, last name, city and state column from users, where users do like the sports music but does not like the opera music, and state is equals to OH, and the data is going to be sorted by first name. Now let's see the output. You can see that the output is here for user ID, first name, last name, city and state, and as given by order by command, this is sorted by using this first name column. This query displays users in Ohio state who like sports but do not like opera music. The list is sorted by their first name. Now again, let's run this query. So let's run this command. Okay, so one thing do remember, while you copy this code right here on the query editor, you have to change this formatting. This query shows the top 10 cities where jazz loving users live. As you can see the data, it presents the name of the city and the count. Now moving on to the next task, it's the challenge that you have to do it yourself. Try to write a query for this requirement. Only display the first name and the last name of users who like both theater and classical music with a last name is Smith. So let's go ahead and try this command.